Had a little listen to his podcast, huh?
Dude, it's educational. And besides, I've been wanting to listen to this one.
Welcome to Idling in the Impala, a podcast by and for lovers of supernatural and the fanfiction it inspires. I'm Kasey.
I'm Sandra, and we've got a writer with us today who does not shy away from checking off those archive warnings or breaking readers' hearts with some not very happy endings. AJ, known as Imagination Creation on AO3, has been writing fan fiction for well over a decade, even though she's about half my age. She's written some very dark and very popular Wincest fics over the past couple of years, and we can't wait to discuss and deep dive into writing, the show, and fandom. So big thanks for joining us, and welcome to the podcast, AJ.
Welcome.
G'day, guys.
And you are very excited, even though it doesn't sound like
Fucking all right.
I have social anxiety, so regardless of that, I am actually really excited.
Good.
But baby, that is not on you. Someone come get your fucking Sandra, please. Come get your pod person and give me my co-host back. What?
Well, you know what I think it is? I think it's because for anybody who's listening, AJ has been in our Discord server for quite a while. So I feel like we are kind of at the point now where we can maybe
kind of buddies.
we can tease a little bit and have a nice little chat.
Oh, please.
And have it do.
I prefer it.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Good,
I'm gonna need you to. I'm not gonna need you to try and not give out my actual real life email address though. Dreamer.
Oh, please, I've forgotten it.
Good. Excellent.
I barely know my own.
I don't know if you're caught up on this week's episode as we're recording, but there's a nice little beep at the end where she's like, email on blah, 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 blah. And I was like, you fucking what? So
I have like 40 minutes left because I got distracted while listening to it and started laughing about it. And I didn't get that far.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, don't worry. It's still waiting there at the end. And I was like, Sandra, you cut that out. And Dreamer went, don't you dare. So Sandra cut the difference and muted it. Rude.
Yeah, that way, you still got to have the reaction, but nobody got the information. So it worked out. It worked out well that way. It was funny. It was funny.
It wasn't.
It was. It was. So AJ, I don't know. Before I even asked the very first question, so we were talking a little bit before the recording. So how long have you been listening to our nonsense on the podcast?
Oh God, at least a year.
Okay.
Oh,
how did you find us?
Yeah. I think it was through AO3, one of your podfics.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that led me to Spotify, and I remember sending it to my good friend, and I was like, dude, you got to listen to this. And I was like, oh my God, there's episodes.
Oh, wow.
And I think I binged a whole heap.
Aw.
Oh, that's
Whenever
sweet.
I'm bored or doing whatever, I'm just like, I wonder what episode I haven't listened to yet.
Oh, you even said in a recent message, you've gone all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah,
and
you do.
listened.
Yeah.
Oh, lots of cringe.
Cringe.
When we were really first
Guys.
starting. Yeah.
No. We're going to pull those
And how
episodes and
have
nobody
you
gets them.
evolved?
Is that rhetorical? Because we definitely
No, it's a
evolved lot.
compliment.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the production values were. Woo-hoo.
I don't even
Wow.
think it's that though. I think it's just we were actually talking about this before you came on about how we're really not it's a different kind of nerves now. Before somebody we've really never quote unquote talked to with microphones and stuff. It's not quite as nerve wracking as it used to be before. So I think just with anything else, the more you do something, the better you feel or the more confident you are
100%.
at things. And I think that transfers over into lots of different things.
Yeah, I mean, when I started my my studies with vet nurse or vet tech, whatever you want to call it, I actually have had a needle phobia my entire life. And so when they started teaching us about how to put needles and syringes together, and on top of that, I'm a naturally very shaky person. So even when I'm not nervous, I have unsteady hands.
Okay.
Then you combine a needle phobia with unsteady hands, and people would think that I was about to pass out, but that was just me. And they're like, are you okay? You just need to breathe. You're okay. And I'm like, this is just me. Can you just stop paying attention to it?
Because that's the worst thing.
Yeah, if everyone could pretend I'm not here while I just get my shit together.
You, of course, have come to us from a love of supernatural. So we're going to go all the way back, and we're going to ask when exactly you got into supernatural. I'm assuming it was quite a while ago.
It was.
Okay.
It was like 15 years ago.
So was it at
Oh
the
my
very
God, you old
beginning
god.
when it started, or like a couple seasons in?
No. So I got into it probably early or mid 2009.
Okay, so like season 4,
Season
5.
four.
Well, just before season 4 started.
Okay.
So what year was I in when I was 15? I was in grade
You what?
10. What?
You were 15 when you got into Supernatural,
I was.
and that was in 2009.
Yeah.
I'd left fucking school by then. In 2 years, I had a child. What the fuck? I feel so fucking old. What the hell?
You feel old.
I feel like that Jensen clip. It can drive.
Yeah.
Except
That's
I
how it
can't.
starts to feel like when we start talking to people that are a lot younger who've been into it stuff. Yeah. So okay.
Oh, there are people that make me feel. I'm 30. All right, like I'm not that young, but
Well,
I have
but you're
loved
younger than I-
Supernatural for half my life.
Yes, so that's the thing. Yeah, half your life has been Supernatural has been a part of your life for half of it. That's pretty significant, because if you started at 15, I mean, that's already a very special age. In the
tell me
teen
about
years
it.
and everything.
It
So
shaped me.
okay, see that's the thing. So you were getting ready. It was like season. So okay, when you got into it, did you start with season 4? Did you find out about the show and start at the beginning? How did that happen?
So I was actually dating a dude back then
Okay.
who was a huge fan of Supernatural.
Okay.
And I was obsessed with Buffy. Like, I'd grown up with Buffy because of my older sister. And then I kind of faded out. But then when I was about 13, 14, I got really obsessed with Buffy again. I got the collector's edition of DVDs, like obsessed. And so I started dating him, and he was obsessed with Supernatural, and we kind of swapped DVD sets.
Okay.
And at that point, there was more seasons of Buffy than there was of Supernatural.
Yeah, that tracks. All right, I'm going to hop in now with my question.
Okay.
It's not on the list. I'm real sorry, but if you've listened, you know which one this is.
I know.
Gun to your head, which brother is your blorbo? And I have to preface that now, because I've had people say, "Oh, I couldn't choose. Oh, I couldn't." Gun to your fucking head, you would. So, gun to your head.
Can I specify what do you mean by blorbo?
Blorbo, as in like this is your. Oh my god, I don't know how to explain blorbo. I used to say you team Dean or team Sam, but that's very divisive.
Yeah.
No, blorbo, like this is your character. This is your favorite character. This is your like your obsession, your love. This is your dude. This is the one that you will like. The hill you will die on is defending this dude, and that's not to say you don't love the other one. It's just you. This is the one. This is the one.
Okay, look, hots wise, Sam all the way.
But
like
fucking knew it.
physicality wise,
Knew it.
Always have, always will.
You can't butter me up now because I knew the butt was coming. It's too late, friend.
I think it's because she started with looks.
I have logic. I have logic when it comes to this, right? So
We all do. Kasey just doesn't.
I will preface this by saying I am only teasing. I do not go out and randomly hate people that come on the podcast and be like, I like Dean. Right. But the thing is, you put a quantifier on it before you said Sam. And I will tell you, I already knew you were going to say Dean because you said Buffy. And I was like, Angel, Dark Angel, Jensen.
Dean.
I'd already gone that way.
Nah, you know what? I never watched Dark Angel at all. I didn't know anything
me both
about.
Right and wrong.
I never watched anything. The only thing I'd actually seen of the boys before Supernatural was Cheaper by the Dozen, Jared Padalecki, and also New York Minute, Jared Padalecki.
Cheaper by the Dozen doesn't count. He's uncredited in that movie. He's in it for like a second.
I still clocked him.
Yeah. No, that's fair. No, that's fair. I'm just.
So,
wow.
Kasey, wait a second. Dark Angel, I'd
never seen Jensen
confused?
Ackles before Supernatural.
Are you confused about Dark Angel with Angel?
No, Jensen Ackles was in Dark Angel.
No,
it was kind of
Kasey,
like linked
Kasey
to
had said something.
Yeah, no, I thought that I know Angel is an offshoot of Buffy, and I thought Dark Angel was an offshoot of. Is it totally separate?
No,
totally
they're not
separate.
connected, but
Oh.
they aired around the same time. They were kind of the same genre.
Yeah, but
That is the whole fucking reason I haven't watched Dark Angel, because I thought it was some weird Buffy spin-off shit.
Nah.
Damn.
Okay, Buffy was weird, but how
Guys
dare
are
you?
missing out. We've successfully tangented and detoured. That was excellent, masterful. Anyway, for hotness, Sam, but please
so
proceed.
I am incredibly Dean coded. Like, I understand that man to his core, but in order to be that way, I honestly think you need to adore Sam in order to be Dean coded. You get me?
Yeah, no, I fully agree. But absolutely, gun to your head, Dean is your boy. Dean is your favorite.
Oh.
You can admit it. It's fine.
But that's the thing. I'm always thinking that this question is about, like, hotness.
No. A lot of people base their choices on that, I think. But it's more than that. It's more than that. It's more than how.
Can I just break the mold and say John?
You can indeed. I'm still going to put you down. I'm going to put you down as Dean, but you go down as Dean with an asterisk. No, you still go down as Dean, but you go down as Dean with an asterisk, and in the notes you get actually John. Actually,
because I will fight people about that character. I know he's an asshole, but still, I will fight for that one.
That's fine. Your ex is still in the wrong fucking column, but that's all right. I forgive you. The count is now 9-17.
Okay.
That's so disappointing, because I always thought I would be in the Sam column.
Somebody could come help me hold up this moose, please. It's so heavy. And I don't get
I even
it.
thought about how I'd help you, like, carry him and shit. Like, I'm sad.
Oh, I'm sorry. I hope you've learned a valuable lesson here, which is that don't put Sam first, because I can see the butt coming from 10 miles away. Because people always say it like they're going to butter me up. But I'm like, have you read Game of Thrones? If I could quote the late, great Eddard Stark, anything a man says before but is bullshit. I'm paraphrasing. I don't think he finishes that, but it is a valid point. And everyone goes, I love Sam. He's the cutest. And I love this. And I love that. And he's hot. But doesn't matter anymore.
It's not my fault that
I'm not. I am only teasing.
That broken, emotionally numb, badly coping man. All right.
And it's always only a tease. It's only a tease. But please enjoy your turn with the little hand-sized squirrel. I'm sure he's very heavy to hold.
Just like Dean, I would sacrifice myself for Sam.
You may hold one leg.
I'll take that.
You get to choose. You get to choose which leg you hold, but you're only allowed to hold it with one hand because you have to carry the squirrel in the other hand. So you may choose.
I can multitask.
Cool. Just cut to me over there, still struggling holding up the rest of this fucking moose, while you just gently cradle one hoof. Like, yes,
just
it's marvelous. Like when farriers work on horses. And they just the horse just folds its ankle and they just cup the ankle while they're doing whatever the fuck it is they do with the hooves, or whatever magic that is. I'm just envisioning you with
them.
The Dean squirrel in your right hand and one folded moose hoof in the other hand. Like, yes, this is marvelous.
This is my palm. Yeah.
I'm helping. And I'm over there like Atlas under the world. Like, fucking hell.
While making jokes with squirrel on my shoulder, I'm like, yeah, I'm helping. I'm helping with moose, sure.
Yep. But you have an asterisk that says you are actually Team John, so that's okay.
Hey,
that's all right. I
know no one will agree with me on that one, but I don't care.
That's okay. All right, Sandra, you may now continue your questioning about Supernatural. I've filled in my chat. I feel better.
So I'm curious, since you started with because you were dating somebody into the show. I'm imagining you viewing the show through then immediately a different lens when you started watching. Because
different lens, how?
Well, in terms of your boyfriend, how did he approach the show? Did he see it much more?
Oh, he used to joke about who he'd turn gay for.
Okay. That's what I was asking. Because I mean, I have
I've
a
never
husband.
dated
What was
fully
his
straight
answer?
men.
Wait. Can I get another mark on my sheet?
There we go.
What was his answer?
I think it was, look, it was a long time ago. I think it was Sam.
I'm not accepting that now. Never mind. Carry on. Moving on.
Okay, because
Unless you can say to me definitively it was Sam, I can't accept that.
Because I know that
it was 14, 13 years ago. I can't remember. I don't talk to him anymore because
that's okay.
I dumped him for my current partner.
Oh, things getting spicy in the AJ household. Love it. That's okay. All right, you may not proceed.
Yeah,
sorry.
I actually remember like binging the first 3 seasons on DVD and watching Dean die and going, what the fuck is going to happen? And then watching season 4, the first episode, and like Castiel's introduction and Dean digging himself out of the grave. And yeah, that was groundbreaking, like quite literally groundbreaking.
Yeah. And he's all just a little bit sweaty and a lot dirty, and it's
Well, I mean, I think
that scene where he's lifting up his shirt, I'm not going to complain.
Yeah.
But the ones with Sam were much better. Like I've got those ones saved, whereas Dean's just kind of live in on my memory.
That's valid. I'll accept that. I don't have that third man opening scene saved in film places. That would be weird. If I did that.
I've got it on my phone, I've got it on my computer, and I've got it on my laptop.
Same. It's everywhere. I have gifts for that. Well, you never know when you're going to be talking to people and you need a shirtless Sam to make your point. It's good.
Absolutely. It's how I convinced one of my friends to watch Supernatural.
Yeah, exactly. Look, it's better to have it and not need it.
No, I always
do you want to throw yourself under the bus at this point, Sandra, or shall I do it? Or shall we assume that AJ already knows?
AJ already knows if AJ's listened.
Good.
AJ knows.
Good. All right. Okay.
What?
Oh no! All right, you've missed your chance, Sandra. I'm gonna. So when Sandra started watching Supernatural,
she's gonna remember if she's listened.
She is gonna remember.
Yeah.
When Sandra first started watching Supernatural, it was Jared that brought her over from Gilmore Girls.
That's right.
And she was like, "Oh,
You're
this Sam
Gilmore
fella,
Girls fan.
hello, this Sam dude, can love me a bit of him." Got to season fucking 6 with the freaking soulless body and was like, I just think I'm into shorter dudes with 4 haircuts.
Twinkie boys.
Oh, goodness.
I've never heard anyone actually call Tina Twink out loud. He's not a twink in season 6. He's a twink in season 1 and 2, but not season 6.
He's an aged twink, but still a twink nonetheless.
At that point, he's a twink. At that point, you can't be a twink when you're over 30. I'm afraid. I don't make the rules.
Put him on his knees; he'll be anything.
You are really derailing this. I can feel Sandra's rage.
No, I'm just listening. I kind of figured this was how this was gonna go. No, I think what I was getting at was like thoughts on the show in general. Like I know from talking to Kasey and like having a husband that watches the show, our husbands watch them very differently. Like they see it a very different type of show than 100%. And then when you give them more of the backstory, sometimes they're like, oh, okay. I don't think your husband's sees any of that still, but my husband my husband watched 15, 18 with me, and still to this day, I could probably go and ask him now, and still to this day, he'd be like, nah, I just think it was general friendship.
100%, my partner's the same.
I don't see any of that other shit that y'all keep arguing about.
But I've got my husband now, like, and I distinctly remember this. It was like around the start of season 5. And it was a Sam Dean moment where they were basically like breaking up. He's like, they're really going full hard on this thing, aren't they? I'm like, yes, honey. I'm like, this is what people are talking about.
Yeah.
Welcome to the real.
I will never forget watching, what's the episode where Zachariah says,
that line that you put in like all of your tags. I noticed that.
Sam and Dean Winchester are
emotionally, irrationally. Yeah, that one.
Psychotically, irrationally, emotionally.
Erotically. codependent on
and
one another.
The only reason that I remember that order is because it spells pie. Dreamer pointed that out to me. We were discussing that quote, and Dreamer pointed it out to me, and she was like, "You know, it spells pie," and I was like, "Fucking does though." Yeah, psychotically, irrationally, erotically codependent on one another.
I remember watching that live because I was in Australia and I was torrenting the episodes because I knew what day it aired in the US, so I would download it, a couple of hours after it aired. And I remember watching that. I would have a sleepover with my best friend at the time. I think it was on a Friday night or something like that. She'd come over, we'd watch the new episode, and I remember going, "Fucking what? What the fuck did he just say?" I remember my auntie was saying, like, "Tell me about Supernatural. Why are you so obsessed with it? I remember you getting in trouble in high school for writing it. Like, how? What? We'll get onto that.
I know this
that's a story.
Yeah,
that's a story. And so I went through it all, and I was like, my aunt, like, I said her name, and I was like, "Heaven has made them soulmates. Soulmates share heavens when they die. Like, why?" And she was like, "Huh?" And then I showed her playthings, Drunk Sam, and she was like, "I have watched a lot of gay porn in my life, and that looks exactly like an opening scene of a gay porn."
Playthings?
Were the writers? Yeah. She was like, "What the fuck were these writers thinking?" I'm like, "I don't know."
That's what I'm always
Do you
curious
understand
about.
why there's Wincest? Like, fans? She's like, "Yeah, no, you're not making this up. It's there."
That's what I'm always curious about, like, which writer is responsible for, like, because I know, like, at the end of the day, they're all working together towards the plots and what they're working on for the seasons. But it seems like the certain episodes too kind of lean in, you know what I mean? Like a little bit more into certain quote unquote, subtext that isn't.
There was no other way to describe it, really.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know who wrote that episode, but Playthings is Kripke era. So if you want to make an argument that Kripke laid the groundwork there, we'll know for sure.
Yeah,
because Jensen's confirmed for season 5 of The Boys, and I think Jared is but they haven't named his character yet, but he's coming on for season. So we'll know if he makes them fuck.
See, we'll know. This looks like
even if he makes them flirt, we'll know.
I just looked it up. So there's written by Matt Whitten. Sarah Gamble was the executive story editor, and Rael Tucker was the executive story editor. So 2 women and 1 guy responsible for that. For that.
I think
episode.
The sheer fact that in the scripts they had the description of intense staring as eye fucking.
Yeah, they did that a lot.
You're trying to tell me that those adult writers did not understand what that meant?
Yeah.
And you're putting that description between 2 characters that are meant to be brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Sarah Gamble from like one of the commentaries just going on about how hot, like having like 2 male characters, like how hot Sam and Dean were. Like, we've got like the 2 best looking like guys like on television. I'm like, well, okay. It's like
was that a DVD extra from the time the DVD came out? Because I don't think you can say that in 2024.
Well, she definitely said something like that. It was season 2. It was definitely along that, and it was all Hell Breaks Loose. It was the first one, I think, that she.
That's around the same time she said they were. It was the love story of Sam and Dean, didn't she?
When you first started watching it, like what was your reaction to like trying to because I'm guessing you binged the first few seasons,
3
like you said you swapped. Yeah. So what was it about it that captured you like right away?
I just love that it was kind of like it leaned into the fact that it's dark and it's funny and absurd. It's very similar to Buffy. Whereas Buffy was a little bit more like lighthearted and kind of leaned into the quirkiness.
Yeah.
Whereas Supernatural was just like more focused on the fact that they come from a really dysfunctional, fucked up family. And from someone who is the same, like I spent 8 years in therapy starting from 15 years old.
Okay.
Seeing 2 characters cope with their own fucked up family and do the best they can you know, I was told by a therapist once, you can like your family, but you can love your family. You don't have to like them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the crux of Sam and Dee. Like, they loved John and Mary, but when they actually got to, when you got down to who John and Mary were, you didn't have to like them. You know what I mean? Like, they both had their own histories and stuff like that. But that was still Sam and Dee's mum and dad. And coming from someone who has very chaotic parents, I could relate to that in a way that, like, no other characters really had on TV at the time. Like, it was always about, you know, pretty normal families. And for me, I couldn't relate to that.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I loved about Supernatural was it was relatable to the people that already felt so isolated in society. Like, you know, you grow up in a family where you can't talk about what goes on at home and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And to watch a show where that is very similar, but they're trying to do the best they can in that situation. And they still stick to one another, and it's kind of, you know, you pick the family that are the best ones. You still love the ones that you kind of want to distance yourself from, but, you know, you feel obligated to protect them. And, you know, and then you find the rest of your family like they did with Bobby and Charlie and Garth and all of that. And it cemented that fact that, you know, that was okay in a way that no other show really did. And going through therapy for PTSD myself, like watching them deal with the trauma from, you know, going to hell and coming back, that was amazing for me. Like, it was so authentic. And watching that was like, I've been through all this hell myself, and it is okay where I am right now. And they coped, and so will I.
That's fucking awesome.
I'm curious.
And being 15 with that example was life-saving, honestly.
Did the therapy come after Supernatural? Like, did you sort of get an aha moment though? Like, you know, because I'm always curious about like how media does affect, you know, kind of opens you up to, like you said, there's other people experiencing this, like, in a way. I mean, it's, of course, it's made to be huge in this way, but you still connect to the trauma part of it. And I wonder if that kind of, because I know that I've watched things that have kind of like opened that up for me, and then like led me to, you know, it's probably time to look into this more and really figure out where my feelings, why this is happening, like and how can I deal with this in a healthier way? Because I know you've listened to us, and we're all about the Winchester therapy. So like, how was that something that kind of helped you kind of get to that point?
It was around the same time, but I kind of sought out therapy organically. It was about between me being 14 and 15. And I kid you not, what pushed me into it, and I'm more than happy to talk about this, but it was my eldest nephew being born. And at that time I was quite, you know, I was pretty suicidal. And I remember looking at that little baby and going, I can't leave him alone with this chaotic family. He needs someone grounding to look around with him and go, yeah, they're insane. You know, it's not, you're not exaggerating. Just, you know, focus on you, focus on being a good person, and don't emulate the other family members. And I had enough experiences that I could kind of talk to my doctor and go, I think I need therapy, because the people around me are not people I want to end up like. And so I somehow got myself into therapy at 15 years old, with my mother having no idea, because she's fairly narcissistic herself, and, you know, her child could never need therapy because she was perfect. But, you know, I got in there and I was like, I need someone emotionally stable to teach me what being adult is like. And that was my saving grace, really, because I grew up with my mother, who was quite narcissistic, my sister, who was hugely traumatized and very imbalanced, and that was it. My father was in another state and all of that, so I had no one else, and I was like, I can't be like them. I need someone else to teach me. And at the same time, I was watching Supernatural. So in order to process all my experiences, that's where I started writing third-person stories about my experiences, kind of removing myself and putting my experiences on these characters and giving them to my therapist, because I couldn't actually talk about them at that time.
Right.
Yeah. And then she would help me process them and stuff like that. And then I discovered Supernatural and how dark it was and all the possibilities with that. And then I sort of kind of moved it into that. And I was like, oh, I could do all sorts of stuff with this kind of world. This is, anything is possible. This is awesome. And so it actually really helped me process all of my experiences. And they showed me that, you know, you can literally go through hell and have, you know, your parents that are not role models and still cope. So it was a saving grace, really.
That's genuinely, I am a little bit speechless about that. Just because not in a bad way. I'm fucking in awe of 15-year-old AJ having the emotional maturity to be like, oh God, it's fucked.
I am being raised by psychos.
Fuck. I need an adultier adult than the fucking adults that are adulting at me right now. That is, oh my God. When I think back to 15-year-old Kasey, fucking hell. That was, and I was also raised by people who were, based on what you just told us, it wasn't quite the same level, but I was definitely raised by people who had no fucking business raising children.
Yeah.
And I was, at 15, I was just fucking white knuckling it, trying to get through the day, having no idea that there was anything other than what was happening to me. I mean, I also threw myself into online spaces in fanfic and things like that. Not Supernatural, because I was in the UK and I didn't fucking know it existed. We didn't get it. Well, we did, but not when it aired. Like, you will know, you've listened to us, other listeners will know that I am profoundly not a John sympathizer. Let's go with not a John sympathizer, but I think it would be remiss not to discuss that. And so, like, with everything that you've just told us, my sort of take on John comes primarily from a place of frustration, having both been the child that was neglected. And this is, and I've talked about it before, this is why I identify with Sam so much, because I was very much the, fuck you, I'm going to do what I want and you can deal with it or not. And I ran, you know, I didn't make good choices, but I made the choices that let me get out, you know? Yeah. So I can come at it from that, but I also come at it from a parent's perspective now, who goes, how could you, what even? I'm curious, as someone who, you know, like I said, my experiences probably weren't as, I don't want to say severe.
Intense.
Intense. I can words. I'm an author. Intense. That's perfect. Look at me. I can do words. I am so smart.
Or I like to say colourful.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. That's yeah, intense. Not as intense. I'm curious how you can come from there and look at John and be like, he was doing his best. Just like the floor is yours, AJ. Me and Sandra don't have a great deal left to say, if anything, about why we don't like John. But the floor is yours. Tell us how it is from your perspective, because I gotta know. I need to know. Just fill me in.
I think it's
no pressure. No pressure.
No, I think it's because both of my parents are so emotionally just crippled from their own childhood and stuff, that I can see that while it wasn't ideal through their perspective, they did do their best. And even though it fucked me up, it could have been worse. And they did love me in their way. And even though it could have been better, and I truly believe that it was their responsibility to kind of be aware enough to heal themselves before they had kids and not use their children as band-aids for their own issues. They were a part of a generation that it was just like, get on with it. And they didn't have the same awareness as we do. And, they never locked us up. They never starved us. They never hit us. But they still didn't they didn't do the best they could. But they tried with what they had. And for sure they could have done better, but they don't have the capability of recognizing that. And I can recognize that. And I can also protect myself from their emotional, the lack of emotional awareness. And I can be, I didn't plan on this.
Sorry.
I can be aware of that and use the lessons that I learned from therapy, and I can love them, but I can also be aware of when they don't live up to what they should be. And I have grown emotionally more than they ever will. And unfortunately, when my mother's quite narcissistic, when someone like that raises kids, it doesn't matter how much you tell them that they neglected you or could have done better, they will not accept that.
100%, yeah. So I think just to kind of like, not to stop you in your tracks, but just to kind of like pull it back over to John.
Yeah.
I think you can see from your own experiences, you can see that it is a lack of ability, not malice. That makes
100%. It was not a decision. It was just like, I think using my intelligence and my emotional availability that this is the best idea.
Yeah. And then
even though it wasn't, clearly.
Yeah.
And also the lack of understanding of what coping mechanisms is. Sure, he coped with his trauma and everything with alcohol and revenge and all of that. But, he truly did think that he was doing what was best for the boys up until he cracked the shits and decided to kick Sam out. Up until then, I think he did his best. But then I do agree that once Sam, wanted something better for him, he just kind of like threw his arms up and went, I don't know what else to do anymore. If you think you know better than me after all these years, then show me you can do better. Even though that was not obviously appropriate.
Yeah, I view that as quite a pivotal moment. Like, you'll know, you've listened, other listeners will know. I can say that John was doing the best with what he had, and he's suddenly a single father to a toddler and an infant, and and me and Sandra have talked in depth about what we consider to be John's addiction to his revenge and how addicts behave and how that influences everything else around them. But I do think at that point when Sam, I would consider John saw that as a challenge, not so much well, if you think you know better than me, more of a, how dare you try and be more than what I have achieved. Quite narcissistic in that, I am, what we do is the most noble of causes, and nobody is better than us because we sacrifice and we put ourselves in danger, and it's a thankless job. And then Sam came along and went, actually, I'd like to do something different. And John just could not handle that as a concept. And that's what prompted the fine, go, And by the way, I'm not going to give you any assistance. And I know there's some discord in the fandom at large about what John knew about the demon when Sam left.
I actually looked this up because I was like, when did he know? Because that's a very crucial moment. Like if he knew long before when Sam was a, little kid, that would 100% change things. But there's theories that he didn't know until when he went missing.
Mm-hmm.
So before Sam went to college.
But I would argue that he may not have known it was a demon. Demon.
That's how I used to spell it.
It always throws me when people write Damon, but they want it pronounced demon, and I'm like, don't put the extra A in there then. If you put the A in there, I'm going to pronounce it Damon.
I used to spell it with the extra D. Demon.
Oh, demon at the end. Yeah. Just one of them weird wordy things. But he may not have known that it was Azazel, the yellow-eyed demon, creating an army of quote unquote, of special children. He may not have known the grand plan, but he did know something supernatural came into his son's room and killed his wife. If nothing else, you lead with that. If you have nothing else to say, you can say, look, I have this information and I'm trying to find out more, but you need to be aware that that demon was in your room and your mum came to protect you and she died for it. And if you still choose to leave, that's fine. But there was a level of information that was not relayed to Sam in that moment.
Did John know that Azazel bled in Sam's mouth?
No, he probably didn't. But he did know that out of all the places in the house that the supernatural entity could be, it was in the baby's room.
Oh, it 100%. But he didn't know if he was going to kidnap Sam or what the follow-up was going to be.
No, he didn't. But I just feel like that's a crucial part of the puzzle. He had this piece of the puzzle that he willfully did not give to Sam. Even if it's nothing else, the fact that this supernatural entity picked the baby's room over the child's room or the adult's room, that's still a crucial part of the puzzle that he just didn't tell Sam.
And I think that's why I can quite relate to Dean in the fact that he can see how flawed his parents are, but he also feels very protective and kind of like, well, at least I have this one parent that stuck by me and didn't end up in the nut house or off themselves or something like that. Like I could have been completely alone after these events, or I could have ended up in a foster home and me and Sam could have been completely separated, and who knows? He tried his best to keep us together. And even though he probably didn't believe in therapy or anything like that.
Absolutely not.
He did his best to keep us together. He kept us short. We might not have had a house, but we had a roof over our head, whether it was the Impala or whether it was a motel. He did his best with what his capabilities were. And this man was traumatized from when he was, 5, 7, 8 years old?
When the fire happened?
No, I'm talking about John being abandoned by his
John,
father.
by Henry. Yeah.
And I know that wasn't available to us as an audience, but if we think about John as a human, that was still impacting his story.
Of course, yeah. I can absolutely look at all the mitigating factors of John's abandonment by his own father, John's military service, and while I'm very adamant that supernatural only, if you start pulling supernatural into the real world, it crumbles. Parts of it exist in line with our world. You cannot go, oh, John was a Marine who served in Vietnam and be like, I'm sure he was fine. I'm sure he wasn't subject to any of the nonsense that happened to the soldiers that came back from Vietnam. You can't do that.
The trauma of, war and coming back and trying to live a normal life, obviously not getting therapy because that was the time of, that was what was normal, getting a wife and then thinking that, the war is probably the most traumatic thing that is in this world and then discovering monsters exist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, up until that point, he thought that humans were the worst thing in this world. And sure, they can be. But then he discovered that fucking monsters actually exist and they could look like people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is, for me, knowing what humans can be like and seeing kind of how bad humans can be like, and realizing that on another level, like, that hell exists and demons exist and different levels of demons exist, and they can look like your loved ones and they can torture you mentally and emotionally and physically. That's a whole nother level of pain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely.
That he had no idea how to cope with.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, a lot of men are told that they just need to get over it and, swallow it down. And yeah, exactly. Like, my partner's a farmer. Like, the whole, like, get over it, swallow it down, you're fine, just get through the day.
Just deal with it. Just why are you being such a blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Don't be a girl.
Yeah. Derogatory. Gross.
Yeah.
I can see all of the mitigating factors that lead to John Winchester being who he is. Where it falls apart from me is I can see all that, and I can see, yes, he was a traumatized veteran, and he'd lost his own father in his childhood, and this and that and blah blah blah, and then he loses his wife, and he's got these 2 kids to look after, and blah blah blah. But at the point of losing Mary, that is a choice. He had
absolutely.
He had a quote unquote apple pie life. Yeah, him and Mary argued, and let's not get into whether they should have been together. That's a whole nother issue. But he had, a house and a car and a job, and he knew how to do normal. He could have.
Did he, though?
He knew how
shell
to
shock.
Pretend normal. He knew how.
Regardless of whether Mary was going to die by a demon or not, he was going to have shell shock and probably have alcohol issues and flashbacks and all of that.
Agree. But those things would have all been much easier to handle if he had stayed within the, let's say, confines, for lack of a better word. If he'd have stayed in the rules, the trappings, whatever you want to call it, of society, then the house burnt down. Fair enough, you're going to need to get a new house. But he'd managed to hold down a job. If he could keep managing to hold down a job, if he could get his kids and go, he made the choice to forgo all of that and drag his kids across the country in search of his revenge fix, in search, trying to feed this addiction for revenge and answers. That is a choice. Everything that then comes after that, every bad thing that happens to Sam and Dean, even the very basis when you look at their life, they changed schools a lot. They lived out of motels. Every bit of that is weighed against John as a choice. John could have stopped at any time. Even if he went a little bit mental for a few months. I've lost somebody and I went a lot mental for a few months. That's perfectly allowed. You lose your wife in a fucking house fire, right? That's okay. You are allowed to be balls to the wall mental for a minute. But he could have. That stops eventually, usually.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Sometimes. Usually. He could have, just taken a fucking minute and been like, whoa, all right, I've gone fucking off the walls. Now we're in Florida hunting a friggin', I don't know, a rougarou or whatever. I may have overreacted here slightly. And he could have stopped at any point. He could have made a home base. And I'm not saying stopped. He could have still kept looking for signs and still kept on this personal mission to find out what happened. But he could have put down a base and given his kids some stability, and he didn't. And I weigh every consequence of that happened to Sam and Dean against John. And I'm fully see all those mitigating factors, but I'm like, at a certain point, it's a choice. And you make a choice to do better or to not do better. And he made the choice to not do better, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I have this belief that you are not responsible for the trauma that you go through up until a certain point, but it's your responsibility to heal it once you're an adult. That is my firm belief.
There's a quite
like
a
it is not your fault for the shit you are put through, you know.
But it is your responsibility
up until an adult. But up until a certain point, say you're, you know, up until 23, 24, 25, it is your absolute responsibility to seek out help so you do not continue passing on that pain to someone else. But that is not everyone believes that. And you know, 3/4 of my own family are passing on their pain. Are passing on their pain to the next generation because they are continuing that belief of, well, it wasn't my fault and I'm just this way because.
Yeah. And that's it. At a certain point, you make a choice to try and be better. I come from.
And break the cycle.
Yeah, I come from a shitty, like, I was raised by people who had no business raising children. And 2 of them were my grandparents. So they'd already had a go, fucked it, and then got a second go round and fucked it a second time round. And I'm like, oh, lads, that was a mistake. That was an error. Yeah. So I made the choice. I make the choice every day to try and be better for my children as an adult.
And that's why at 30, I still haven't had kids, because I have worked really hard on becoming a person that I think should be a role model for kids. And I have practiced this with my nephews, and I know I'm better than my own parents and my sister and stuff like that. But, you know, this is not a popular belief, unfortunately. Everyone wants to point the fingers at what they've been through.
Yeah, but at some point, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. At some point, you have to go, I went through some shit, and it has made me, like, I went through some shit, and I am fundamentally changed by that shit. So I need to make a choice. And if that choice is that you opt, as so often happens in the community of people that come from the kind of backgrounds that I come from, that AJ comes from, people choose not to have children for various reasons. And sometimes that reason is, I can't be better. I have tried, and I am so fundamentally changed by what has happened to me that I cannot be the person I would want to be as a parent. So I'm not going to be a parent. And that's fucking fine and valid, and I respect the shit out of that. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to act accordingly. And I
think, sorry, keep going.
No, to kind of to haul that back to Supernatural again, let's look at Bobby. We did it. Bobby Singer is top dad. Peak fucking dad. I don't know. He might be eclipsed by Sam, but then Sam put his kid in a dungarees with his name on it that just screams, "Kidnap me, I'm free." So, docking some points there, Winchester Jr. But let's look at Bobby. He also found out about the supernatural in quite a similar way to John. Very fucking traumatic. Had to kill his wife. And then, poor bless him, had to kill her again. That's very tragic. And, you know, he came from a shitty childhood, and he made a choice that he was not going to have children because he was not confident that he could be the kind of parent he wanted to be. So he made the choice not to have children. And he found out about the supernatural in very similar traumatic circumstances as John, and just managed to fucking be better all the way around, all the way around, be fucking better than John.
And I think
could.
That's the beauty of the dichotomy of the two, you know, senior men in Supernatural is, like, you can go through shit and you can be like John, or you could be like Bobby. And that choice is up to you. But, and I know 99% of the fandom fucking hate John, and they have every reason to. But there's something really unique about the family that was sculpted for Supernatural. And I think it made it really relatable to people who, like, the viewers. Like, don't get me wrong, we could debate about John back and forth for hours. But at the end of the day, if Sam and Dean didn't have the parents that they did, they would not relate to the isolated, excluded fans that they do relate to. And that is so crucial and important to the fan base.
Oh, absolutely.
I honestly, I couldn't imagine Sam and Dean being raised by anyone else. Like, I almost need them to be raised by those shitty parents, because in that way I can relate to them.
Yeah.
And
I've got to say, before like this conversation, I know like me and you have talked privately about John and in various other places, but before this sort of conversation where you were like, look, I've been through this fucking shit and Supernatural was there, I had actually not ever considered, like, I am not going to give the writers of Supernatural that much credit, because I fucking aren't, because they can't remember what happened last season. So I am. But the idea that John being as shitty as he is, and that Sam and Dean do still love him, must speak to so many people out there in situations where they feel they can't. And I'm a very big cut here. Like, I'm snippy motherfucker. If you wrong me, you're out, and that's the end of it. And that does lead me to be quite isolated, but my circle is fucking peaceful. Ain't nobody knocking on my door causing shit. It's nice. But I acknowledge that not everybody is able to do that, and not everybody wants to do that. So to have this representation,
or they've tried and through narcissism and emotional, trauma, that you get reeled back in.
Of course. And I mean, like,
through generations, because I feel obligated to be there in my family unit to help out the youngest generation, which is my nephews, to keep in touch with the toxic people as much as I would love to be separate. But it's like, these two need someone balanced and emotionally in touch to go, you see that? That's not okay.
Yeah. And I'll be the first to hold my hands up and say, had my mother not passed away when she did, had I not been the age that I was, had I not had my eldest son when that happened, my life would be very different. I would probably still be drinking the Kool-Aid. I would still be involved. Well, I mean, like,
welcome to my world.
I mean, like unethical life tips, I find it's really difficult, really easy to cut people out and then they die. That cuts off a lot of that fucking problem if you go, no, and then they pass away and you're like, well, that's that problem sorted. It alleviates a lot of the guilt. Don't do that. That's a terrible idea. But I would still be involved in the rest of my family and the rest of the nonsense, and I'd still be drinking the Kool-Aid, because I felt I had to protect my mother, because what I did didn't come back on me, it came back on her. And so the idea to me that, while I don't think it was deliberate on the part of the writers, the idea that Sam and Dean going through this upbringing and being raised by these parents and all the various issues that come along with that, but still going, I love you and I'm looking for you and I'm here and I want you in my life, must speak to so many people who have never had that experience before.
Yeah.
And I'm not ever going to be a John apologist or a John sympathizer, but I can see that. And that's, do you know what? That's the fucking beauty of it, though, isn't it? That's the beauty of it. I have marginal more respect for him now, that I can be like, you know what? I think you're a cunt, but you offer some stuff to some people, and I respect that.
Oh, and you know what? In fan fiction, he's such a dynamic character that you can twist into so many different, types of characters. That is just, I love it. That's the part that I love so much.
I agree with that. I do. But
like, you can make him a shitty parent. You can make him, but at the end of the day, he did love his kids enough to keep them around. We know how many that could have just gone, nah, fuck off, and just dumped them, which probably would have been better off for Sam and Dean. But, he loved them enough to keep them around and wanted to protect them in the way that he thought was appropriate.
Yeah. That is true. I can't not say that two of my favourite tags on AO3 are not John Winchester's A+ parenting and John Winchester being my favourite thing, dead. If John gets a spot in any of my fics, which he does in 2 of my current whips, he's either dead or going to be dead. Like he either is already dead, is just off screen in some arbitrary thing, dies off screen, and I deal with the boys dealing with that, or I kill him personally on screen. Or for me is writing, John wrapped the fucking car around the tree. Fuck you, John. You know.
Honestly, even me as a John apologist or sympathizer or whatever you want to call me, even like 50% of my fics, like 50% he's a dad that tries, even if he's not great. Other 50%, he's an abusive asshole just because his character traits make it so easy to make him
yes. It's I find it quite difficult to read any fics that are like, John Winchester is actually good at parenting. And I'm like,
oh no, he never was. All of my fics where he's a semi-decent parent is like, John Winchester tries. Like that, like he tries. I'm not saying he achieves, but he tries.
Yeah. I think that's the best that we can give it.
And look, there are plenty of parents out there that don't try, that don't give a shit, that will throw their kids under the bus and be like, bye.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's before we spend far too long
Sandra
on this
still
topic.
here?
I am.
She is, yes.
I'm just
she is,
listening.
yes.
Just checking.
I'm here.
Yes.
I'm here.
Yes, she is. Sandra very much feels that she has exhausted everything she has to say about John. So I was like, I'll take this. Don't even worry about it. But
that's fine.
Let's bring Sandra back into the conversation. Not specifically focusing on John, but just looking at like your love of fan fiction and where that began, and like was Supernatural your first dip into writing fan fiction, or did you have a Harry Potter phase like so many of us did?
No,
I'm starting to think that might have just been fucking me.
No,
somebody else who started fan fiction with Harry Potter. Hit me up. I'm worried.
No, my beta that I actually went to the convention with, who she was a sweetheart. She paid for my ticket and let me pay her back. She was amazing. And I met her on Tumblr. Like the fact that I met this girl on Tumblr, we talked for a year and then the convention came out and she was like, no, you can't miss out. You have been a fan for half your life. You are going, and she bought me a ticket with a photo op involved and let me pay her back. Was just like, nothing will ever mean that much to me than that. But yeah, she had her Harry Potter phase, so don't worry.
Okay, it's not just me.
No, definitely not.
Did you start with Buffy then?
Well, I thought that my first fan fiction was Supernatural, because really I never went online. I never really sorted out. But when I really thought about it, when I was about 5 years old, I used to write little picture books about Buffy killing vampires.
And when I think about
it, and I went to a Catholic school. So my teachers would be complaining about me drawing little comic book style stick figures with like a stake in their hand and like another stick figure with like pointy teeth and stuff and blood and all of that. My mum was like, AJ, you have to stop doing this. Like, people think that there's a problem. You need to stop.
Oh yeah, when the school can you just come in, Mrs. AJ? AJ's been drawing some quite concerning pictures. We just have a chat with you about it. Yeah.
And I literally, I remember me and my best friend in like year 1 were pretending, like we would cut out triangles of paper and put them under our lip and pretend that we were vampires. Like we were obsessed. Obsessed. And she was blonde, so she would be Buffy, and I had brown hair, so I would be Faith. And like we'd find sticks and stuff. Like we were full on. And then we kind of got told that we weren't allowed to do that anymore. And then it got to middle school. Like I went back and I was like, I don't think I just started off with Wincest. So then me and my friends got obsessed with the band McFly.
Yep.
I'm sure, Kasey, you know the band.
I am very familiar with the band, yes. I'm real sorry to bring more discourse into this, but I was always a Busted fan, and I really felt like McFly were a shitty ripoff. I'm so sorry.
How dare you?
But as I've
who
grown,
is still around? Still around?
As I've grown and matured, I have come to appreciate McFly for what they were. But at the time, unfortunately, I did consider them a shitty Busted ripoff.
Year 3000 was not a bad song. I know that song off by heart now. Always.
You are not going to sit here and just call that not a bad. It was a fucking banger, and I will die on this hill.
Year 3000 was great, but not Supernatural. McFly, I ended up going to Sydney and seeing them live, all of this.
Oh,
so
cool.
Me and my 4 friends, so it was me and 3 other friends, and we ended up becoming so obsessed with McFly that we wrote this document that was literally, it ended up being like 250 pages.
Wow.
Of us being like paired up with each member of McFly.
Sandra.
And like going around.
This is your moment. Get involved.
It just sounds like New Kids on the Block for me. But so McFly, I mean, I just think of Marty McFly from like Back to the Future.
Yeah, that's what they were named after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what they were named after.
They were one of those boy bands that weren't like a Take That Westlife. They like played guitar and wore a little bit of eyeliner and like dyed their hair and had mohawks. They were like edgy boy bands, but not like.
Have you ever watched Just My Luck with Lindsay Lohan?
No.
Oh, because they were in that movie.
Okay.
But they were like, imagine Blink-182 crossed with the Beatles.
Okay.
Like they played their own. They wrote their own music. They played their own instruments. They sold arenas around the UK.
I will say, even though I was a Busted fan mortal, McFly were the better band. Busted just played
100%.
guitars, and they had like backup instruments, and they played guitars and sung. McFly were like, they had a drummer and a bassist and guitarist, and like they were a fully complete band, whereas Busted were a bit more of like a more traditional boy band. Yeah, no, shut up. I'll have less of that, thank you. And you know what? Weirdly, listeners, I was into the short one out of Busted as well. James was my guy. He was cute. He had that floppy. It was the hair. You all know it was the hair. He had the cute floppy hair, and the other 2 had quite short hair. But he was the shortest.
See, I was into the bassist, and I still am from McFly, Dougie.
Dougie, yeah. I don't know how tall he is. Is
he
little?
My God. Little blonde dude, really quiet with, I still adore him. But anyway, so it was
Tom for me, the blonde one.
Tom. Tom.
Frontman, question mark. They all sung.
Yep. The singer.
Yeah, no, it was.
There was 2 singers, there was a bassist, and then there was the drummer.
Yeah.
So for our fan fiction, we basically paired each one of my friends up with one of their members, and we wrote this epic, like, document that we would pass around on USBs to one another. And we wrote
Sandra relates to that. Before USBs were a thing.
It was on a notebook, yeah.
Yeah.
And we would plan the storylines at sleepovers and talk about it at lunch and recess and all of this. And then I started dating this dude, and I got into Supernatural, and it all turned at Monster at the end of this book. The famous What's a Slash fan.
So when you find it, so I mean, that was, so you hadn't, so had you had thoughts yourself, but then was that kind of like helped?
Oh yeah, I was like,
okay,
they're a bit weird. And I remember that first episode of season 3 where Dean's in the motel room and like Sam's outside in the Impala watching, and like Dean comes out, puts his thumbs up, and then even though Sam knows what Dean is doing in the motel room, he just decides yeah, and act surprised. Like, dude, you fucking knew what, like, why?
It's a perfectly natural thing, Sammy.
Yeah. And also play things. Like, there are lots of things that just kind of made me go, huh? But then Monster at the end of this book, when they were like, what's a Slash fan? And I was like, what is a Slash fan?
Yeah.
You know, I knew what a Slash fan was by the time I'd seen that. But I still, every time someone references that, I can't. Sam's really pissy. And leans back and folds his arms, and he's so pissy about it. And I go, Sam slash Dean.
But if you look at his laptop, he is on like page 50.
Really?
He is so far into those Wincest forums. Like, dude.
Oh my God, that's great.
Why did you look that far into it?
We know why. No sub, only text.
Oh, 100%. And so after that, I was like, is this an actual thing? And I Googled it, and I remember I was actually sick at that time, and I was lying in bed next to my mum, as I did as a teenager when I was sick, and I had my laptop, and I was like, Sam/Dean fanfiction, and I went straight down that rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. I ended up on LiveJournal. I was one of those LiveJournal fanfickers and all of that. And I went so hard down that rabbit hole, I never came back.
Yeah, that's fair.
I got so obsessed. I was going to my Catholic high school, and I was looking up fan fiction on their computers and printing it out at school in size 5 font, so that if teachers looked over my shoulder, they couldn't actually see it, because I assumed that they were old and they needed glasses, so they need glasses to read the really tiny font.
That's fucking great. I love that.
And then it got so bad that me and my friends were like, this is hilarious. We've come up with an idea. Let's pass a notebook back and forth and write our own. And it was year 10. And I was in science class. I got past the notebook, and I started writing my section. And my science teacher at the time came up to me, realizing that this student who never pays attention in class is for some reason being really well behaved. What's going on? And so she came over to me and said, let me look at your notebook. And I remember my heart sunk, and I was in the middle of writing like explicit smut. This was not, fluffy. This was not, it was like, a 15-year-old's level of BDSM, like hypnosis type story. Mm-hmm. And she took my book and she started reading it. And I'll never forget, she was reading, it was a good 15 pages of handwritten story, and she was walking around the classroom while reading it, and I just watched her. And I kid you not, I started pretending to choke in class and hoping that it was enough to make her look up from this notebook and like give me the Heimlich maneuver or something just to distract her from the book. But she didn't even look up from the book. She just went, go get some water. And I was like, oh, God.
No.
So I went and got water, and I was like, I can't run away. I live 12 kilometers away. I can't even go home. I don't know what to do. And I went back to class, and she finally finished reading it. And she looked at me and went, the contents of this book is very concerning. You are going to have to talk to the coordinator about this. I don't know what we're going to do with you. And then she passed it on to the year level coordinator. I then got a detention for the story. And I was I didn't pay attention to class, but I was good enough that I didn't often get detentions. So when I did receive the detention, I then had to tell my mother that she couldn't pick me up from school at the regular time because I had a detention, and she had to ask me why. And I had to explain why I got the detention. And I had to tell her that I was writing gay, incestuous smut in the middle of class at 15 years old.
I feel so very uncomfortable for you, I'm afraid.
Yeah. And my mother used to want to be a nun. So while she was quite sex positive, she was just like, why? Why? And then when I explained to her that it wasn't about anyone real, it was just about characters, she was like, oh, you're not writing about anyone in your class or teachers or anything? And then she offered to call the school and get me out of the detention. which my 15-year-old brain went, no, I don't like that. I don't need my mother to call up and defend me for writing gay incestuous porn in the middle of class. That seems weird. They're going to wonder what kind of family I come from.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no, I will just do the detention, please. Just don't, please. Then I remember doing the detention and like sitting in the class, and the teacher that was looking after the detention, he'd call the roll, and you would have to, when your name was called out, you would have to say why you had the detention.
Oh
and
my God.
What the fuck was wrong with your school? Friggin' hell.
Old school Catholic school. And I was sitting there looking down at the desk, and the teacher went, we'll just say I was AJ. AJ, no, don't say anything. Just do your work. He did not let me say anything. And then it turns out that the notebook that I was writing in got kept in the teacher's lounge, and my other teachers read it. And they actually made comments about my story in other classes.
That's
right.
awful.
Okay, here's where I have a problem. Right, no, I had a problem with all of it. I'm not going to lie.
No,
But the concept of you have detention for passing notes in class or doing work that is not classwork, it's a fair bit extreme. But wait, like I also pass notes in class. We also used to get in trouble for it. You know, that's common, right? I can't, like, if we take out the subject matter, just the concept of you are in trouble for passing notes in class, you are in trouble for doing work in class that is not your assigned schoolwork. It's a bit strict, but it was a Catholic school. Fair play, right? I can just about get along with that. But the concept that like your property was not returned to you as it should have been, even with a message of do not bring this into school again. That is your property, it should have been returned to you. But then the concept that it was passed around to such a degree that your other teachers felt comfortable enough to make comments to you about it in other lessons, in front of other people, that is disgusting. If I was your mother, I would have raised hell. I would have burnt the school down.
I don't think I ever told her about other teachers telling me. To be fair, the only two teachers that did make comments about it were teachers that I personally loved, and they were just, jeering me a little bit, and like it was playful kind of teasing.
Yeah, but that's not.
But it was
that
also
an adult does. It
was.
I reckon as an adult you can look back now and go, oh yeah, no, it was just. But I bet at 15 you were like, I want to die.
And my friends in the class that knew about it, they looked at me like, oh my God, are they? But at the end of the semester, I actually got the balls up to talk to my year level coordinator, and I was like, look, I know you still have this notebook. That is my property, and I would like to have it back. Excellent. And she agreed and accepted that, yes, it was still there. And she said, okay, you can have it, but on just one rule, that you never bring it back onto school property again. So
that's reasonable.
My plain notebook got banned from school property, but my reputation about writing gay incestuous smut still busted.
I was going to say, did that carry on with you for
a
while?
Yeah.
My goodness.
But to be fair, I had a pretty, because I was friends with like the musical kids and the band kids and the nerdy kids, our group was significantly bigger than any other group in the year. So most of the kids, they didn't really care because they were my friends.
Right.
And the teachers that did want to make fun of me or, tease me or whatever, they were generally like, yeah, you know what? We've always known she likes writing narratives and stuff like that. So they were just more shocked about the content.
My question
surprised.
Is like, what happened? Because the way you talked about this book, it was being passed around. So what happened with everyone else who was involved? But no, I didn't. Everybody who was involved with it was okay. Okay.
I didn't, because the other two, like one was very heavily, like my other friend who was writing it, she was very heavily Lebanese and Christian, her family.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one was just very heavily, strictly Christian values.
But they could
and
tell
all of that.
other people had written in that book that it wasn't just,
Oh yeah, 100%.
it wasn't just
but
you.
I didn't. I never said who it was or anything like that. And so I just took the brunt of it, and I was like, you know what, my family's pretty okay. And I'll never forget when it got first taken, and my mum was like, you need to talk to your auntie about this. This is hilarious. And so I called my auntie. I told her, and she's like, can you read it to me? And I was like, no, they took it away. She's like, oh, does that mean you can't finish it?
Oh, gosh.
And to this day, when I went to Melbourne for the convention, she was like, I remember you getting busted in high school for that. Are you still doing it? I'm like, yeah, once it has you never let go.
So where did the writing, you've mentioned, is there someone else in your family too that's also a writer? And like, is that kind of where that started from too?
Both my parents are actual writers, like script writers.
Okay.
That's very cool.
My father was actually a writer on Neighbours in the 80s, 90s.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember actually meeting the cast on Neighbours when I was a kid.
Wow.
But that didn't last.
So was that something too that you just kind of, because of that, like, did you enjoy reading, writing?
Ironically, I'm actually sort of dyslexic.
Okay.
So reading is really difficult for me.
Okay.
But writing, I love doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to consuming fan fiction, I actually have to consume it through a text-to-speech app.
Okay.
Otherwise, it takes me hours to read like a 5,000 word fic.
Okay.
But when I put it into this app, it reads it to me, and it's just like an audiobook to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a really slow reader, but I can write, 12,000 words in a couple of days.
We are not judging. I am all about accessibility in reading. I don't care how you consume your words, just consume them, people. Just read, please.
Yeah, but I was a shocking reader as a kid. I was in a program called Reading Recovery in primary school. I was quite like delayed when it came to reading, but when it came to writing, I loved it.
Okay.
The amount of like high school, just reports that I had, that it was like, AJ would do so much better in class if she stopped talking to people around her and focused on her own work and was more organized and this and that. And I was just like, like my teachers, I kid you not, could sit me next to the year bully, and I would end up realizing that this bully had a learning disability, and I would start helping them and helping them finish their work while my work stayed incomplete.
Yep. How did you get access to my school records? If Carly put as much effort into her work as they did into talking, they would have much better.
Yeah. And I only got good grades in English. That was it. And it was all based on my writing.
Yeah.
And it was funny that my English teacher actually made a comment about that notebook. And he was a very quirky, like 60-year-old man. And I remember him going, today we're going to write a narrative. And I perked up and got obviously quite excited. And he went, not that kind of narrative, AJ. Calm down. I've seen the type of narrative that you write, and it's not that kind. And I was just like,
oh my God.
Goodness.
The absolute rudeness.
He's like, we're focusing on other types of narratives today. And I was
other types of because I have to say, in my adult life, I have used the knowledge of how to write a newspaper column fucking loads of times, mate. Loads of times. I'm really, really glad that I learned how to do that repeatedly in school.
But up until that point, all of my stories were really they were horror based. They were literally about a haunted doll or werewolves, or they knew. I did not write, fluffy types of stories. That was just not me. And then, I don't know if they were really all that surprised about my recreational stories, but they were just like, I can't believe she actually did this in the middle of class, in the middle of science class.
Oh, well, no judgment. We're not going to
Even
judge
my
you.
mother was like, did you have to write your gay smut in the middle of science? Like, you couldn't just wait until you were out of class. She was more upset that I just wasn't focusing on the subject. And I was like, yeah, I know. But she was like, if you're not writing about anyone real, like, why are you in trouble?
Well, that's a very
Catholic school. I mean, that just says it all. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I gotta say,
but then I started coming to school in like literal rainbows and stuff, and I just gave them shit until I left. But they did actually ask me to leave in year 12. They were like, no, you're not going to pass year 12. You need to just leave.
Oh, I hate that for you. I'm sorry, friend.
That's all right. I ended up doing really well in my vet nursing class, and I ended up being almost top of the class. And
that's excellent. And I'm fucking pleased for you. I just hate that your school failed you. That is not a pitying, like, oh, everyone feels sorry for AJ. Like, virtue signal. That is like, school. They fucking failed you, and that is disgusting. And I'm really glad.
School, and you had to bend to their expectations, otherwise you would not have passed. And unfortunately, I was bringing down their overall grade, and I wasn't bad enough for them to expel, but I was just bringing down their grades. So they asked me to leave, but technically I didn't have to leave. I'm really glad that, like, after you finish school, you get to go, fuck you, I'm a qualified vet tech, fuck you. You said I couldn't, and I did. But unfortunately, after that trauma, I did kind of bow out of the fandom for a while.
Yeah, reasonable. Reasonable.
Yeah, from 17 to 28, I didn't write anything.
Yeah, that's perfectly. I took like a decade break.
It wasn't until late 2022 that I actually started like discovering fan fiction again. I had to re-find where all the fan fiction was like uploaded and everything. And AO3 was a thing, and LiveJournal was just abandoned, and it was quite an adjustment.
Yeah, I can imagine. Sandra, I'm gonna let you pick the next where we sort of move from there.
Well, the one thing I wanted to say was just listening to you, AJ, I can hear how Dean coded you are in everything that you've been like talking about. So I can see it. It just makes
I'm broken,
sense.
but in a fun way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, but I mean, it's just very apparent, especially like, thoughts on, parenting and all of that stuff. It's very apparent. So when
a lot of that hit my mum over I'd switch, and I was like, this is fucking disgusting. I would burn this school down, and I would put this in it, because like the mum part of my brain is like, no, fix. But no, cannot treat child like this. And you're like a whole ass adult.
Like you also took on a lot of responsibility for yourself. And I think,
yes.
Oh yeah.
That just sounds very Dean to me, in that way.
Except I was the youngest sibling. Yeah. So like even my older sibling, like I shouldn't say this, but I do, but my older sibling was my first bully.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up with like, people laugh, but like I remember building almost like a campsite in my wardrobe that I could disappear into when my sister kind of targeted me and all of that. And my mother didn't do anything because the rage wasn't targeted onto her. So she kind of just let it go. And when I bring it up to her now, she would say that she was a victim of my sister as well.
Oh, it didn't happen like that. That was you misremember. Yeah, no, let's not get into that.
No.
And she was like, "Oh, well, I was a victim too. We were both in the same." I'm like, "Oh, but you were a 40-year-old woman. I was 7. There was a big difference.
Yeah.
It's very different.
You actually could ground her, whereas I was there.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting thing when you are the target of such rage and you learn, hey, if I disappear, that stops.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous thing to learn when you are very young.
But it's a coping skill, and everybody
100%.
Everybody copes differently with everything.
Confront back because I didn't want to be another loud voice in the home. Yeah. So I was just like, if I just like Harry Potter, like invisibility cloak out of here, then it stops.
Yeah.
And it's like confusing a bull. Like a raging bull comes busting into the room, doesn't see its target and goes, huh.
Yeah.
And just stops.
Yeah.
So I learned to disappear. And then, as the peacekeeper, even though I was the younger sibling, that's what I kind of ended up being, very much like Dean.
Yeah. I can totally see that. Yeah.
The writing, because you said you came back to it. What brought you back to it? Like, what was the impetus for that?
Depression.
Okay. Hey, yeah. Okay.
Just not really having a hobby anymore, and not knowing, like, kind of going, God, what made me the happiest in my recent memory? And remembering it was supernatural. And then I started reading fan fiction. And
did you stop watching it too?
That was
my question. For a little while.
Okay.
But I slowly introduced my partner to it, but I still didn't delve into the fan fiction side.
There's just like so much trauma there that's so sad that you had all this trauma and that you had to overcome that. And then we'll find it again. Find the joy in it again. Like, like that's another thing to have to overcome, in a way. Like, somebody judging and making judgment of something that you really enjoyed and you obviously were good at because people liked reading it. Apparently the adults liked reading it because they kept the goddamn book. So, there's that thing too, where it's you being, and that's the thing I'm finding too, is you're finding ways to make things yours, like finding that strength within to do that. And I think that's very telling of you as a person. So, yeah.
And I remember just like finding, all those darker fics that I've always loved reading and all of that, and going, this still exists and it's still active. And then I remember reading one fic from China Blue, who's, she writes quite a lot of John Dean type fics and stuff. And in her author notes, it said, come follow me on Tumblr. And I was like, huh.
Tumblr.
There's an active fan base. Oh my God. And, actually every now and then throughout this hiatus, I would occasionally go back onto my live journal or look on Supernatural Kink Meme at my field prompt fix and kind of read it and go, huh, that wasn't too bad when I was 16, 17. And then read the comments that were posted a few years later, and it kind of made me go, maybe I should kind of go back onto it. I love writing, but I'm not great at creating characters or anything like that. So I just kind of went back onto that. And then I remember I was doing some chores around the house, and I remember going, oh my God, or something like that. And I remember thinking, imagine if some like God, or if that exists, had to pay attention to me every time I said that. And then that kind of led on to Sam and Dean talking about God as a phrase, and then Chuck being triggered to see them. And I started writing it. And I hadn't written in so long. And I remember getting to Sam and Dean's kissing scene and cringing because I hadn't written anything like that in so long that I was just like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And it took some practice, but I got there.
I love that story, by the way. I think that's the one I'm going to narrate because it's just so, there's so much going on in that I just really,
I really love.
Yeah.
And but it was also interesting to write from Chuck's point of view.
Yeah. I really did like that. Yeah.
He's such a narcissistic, he's like a kid playing with Barbies. just like smushing them together and stuff like that and just seeing what can happen. And he's so unserious about it all, about what he is creating and how it actually affects these people that do exist. But it's just fun for him.
No, I read that this morning because when Sandra was like, I need to read something of AJ's, and I was like, fuck, wait, hang on, stop, where are they? When I went and I had a look, and I was like, okay, the Soulless Sam one, that's pretty safe. And
none of mine are really all that safe, let's be fair.
Well, that's it. I was like, this was pretty safe. And the 350,000 apps and counting, that's properly safe. And she was like,
I wrote that when I was 15 or 16.
Yeah, I'd seen that.
Really?
You mentioned like the live journal in your notes about it, right?
Yeah,
that's
like
when I went back and actually salvaged.
Wow, I was not writing shit that was that good when I was that age. Let me tell you that. Bloody hell! But
actually, if you go onto my archive on my own, Jeff's Pet, also RPF. That's also a Supernatural Kink meme that I wrote 15, 16. That one.
Okay.
Oh, I'll just have to have a look. But I recommended that one to Sandra, and I was like, this one's perfectly safe. This one's funny. And she went, I think I'm going to look at this Chuck one, and I hadn't read it, so I queued up like 350,000 apps and Oh My Chuck and your Dean John, the one with the really long title, whose name I can't remember now.
Yeah. You got a willing slave.
Yeah, it's that one.
You just love to play the thought that you might misbehave. That's actually a Buffy lyric.
I knew it was a lyric of some description because I was like, nobody makes long titles like that. This is a song by Fall Out Boy.
Yeah. No, it was Buffy the musical.
Yeah, but it's like that's Fall Out Boy writes those really long and Panic at the Disco, those really stupid ones. Lying is the most fun a girl can have without taking her clothes off. That's not a song lyric, that's a fucking poem. It's a banger song as well. Anybody listening out there, go listen to that.
I love Panic at the Disco.
But no, I'd read the apps one, and it slays me at the end every fucking time. You get right to the end, and then Steve's just like, the fucking instructions every time. Every single time. And I was talking to Sandra about it before we started recording today. And I was like, it really makes me laugh that out of the two of them, Sam is arguably the more flexible and in shape out of the two of them. But Sam was like, the fuck are you doing? Really makes me laugh. But I hadn't read the Chuck one. So I loaded that one up and I was like, this is fucking great. Why have I not read this? This is awesome. And then at the end when they're like, fucking hell, I was like, yes. Yes, I'm right.
Oh my Chuck. And just like, no, I meant to say Chuck. No.
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
oh my Chuck. Fuck.
Like the like it's a late, I think it might even be a 14 or 15 episode when Jack goes, nobody can lie. And Dean's like, who's your favorite singer? I know you say it's Elvis, but who is it? Celine Dion. What? No, I'm trying to say Celine Dion.
Yeah. I don't know why. It took me so long to place it because I was like, where do I want to place this in the series? I had to actually go back and watch it and like work out where to place it and stuff like that because I'm very pedantic about that. And it took me so long to write it and then place it and then post it because I didn't know if it was good enough. And I also knew people freaking hated Chuck. And I didn't know if they would accept, this quirky crack type of fic involving Chuck being a voyeur, an unintentional voyeur of Sam and Dean. But it just seemed funny to me.
Yeah, no.
I love it.
I love it.
It also reminded me of, Bruce Almighty. When he's getting all those emails of prayers and he's trying to sort them. It was kind of like that, but it was just Sam and Dean because he was the favorite characters, and then how their phrases with God's kind of evolved and his lack of control over it.
Yeah, I was saying to Kasey, I was like, I was going to highlight every time I saw God was coming up more and more and more and more, and I'm like, oh, this is so good, because again, like. But it was interesting too because it's like he's waiting for the aha moments, but then he's like, but I don't want, like, it was an interesting spin on Chuck, like you said, like the dolls aspect of it, because he's like, I know they've got this thing, but I don't really want to see it confronted and stuff like that. And I was wondering, did that have anything to do with the fact that maybe you were trying to get back into writing that too?
I just came up with this funny idea, and I've always been a Wincest writer, at heart.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of like evolved from, imagine Sam and Dean are Chuck's favorite characters. So imagine if every time they said, "Oh my God," or a phrase with God in it, that he was forced to witness whatever they're doing. And then obviously when people have sex, they do call out God quite a bit. And Chuck's reaction to being forced to watch his two favorite characters that are brothers in these very intimate moments, and him having no control over it. And so,
can I don't know, had you finished the show when you wrote that?
Yes, yeah, at that
because
point,
it gave me like I'm always in love with the idea that there's something that he can't control. Like he's created this kingdom, and he's made himself Lord, Master, and Ruler, and he's utterly omnipotent, and he can do everything. So I always really like it when something happens that he's like, wait, no, not like that. So when you look at the 1519, isn't that a weird number to end a season of a show on? It's so strange, but whatever. You all do your creative process. When they're literally fighting him, and he's getting more and more frustrated because they're not giving in, they're not backing down, they're not dying, and he's just getting more and more angry because he can't control this, and that's not how it's supposed to be. That was the kind of big vibe I got, that he was like, he paints himself as this omnipotent author and he can do everything, but he couldn't just snap this connection out of existence. He was a victim of his own hubris,
Chuck
I guess.
was literally like a person playing The Sims who kept trying to turn free will off, and it kept turning itself back on.
Yeah.
And he couldn't work out how the fuck to permanently turn it off and control these characters and stop them from making their own decisions. But it somehow just defaulted back.
Yeah.
And no matter how much he tried, to create fate for these characters, which is also something that I love, you can decide your own fate. You can have control over your future. That's the crux of it,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That was great. I haven't finished the John and Dean one. I'm on the last chapter.
It's a long one.
No, it's not that. I'm on the last chapter, and I was like, yeah, all right.
I had to get fluffy, or somewhat more fluffy than I'm used to.
It wasn't even like the dark. I don't think it's a particularly dark fic. As like, all right, no, I don't think it's a particularly dark fic, as long as you put the parent-child power imbalance incest in the corner over there and don't look at it or think about it. If you remove that from the equation, which I am a Wincest shipper, so I'm real fucking good at removing the moralities of incest out of an equation. I was just like, apart from that, I was like, yeah, no, this is fine. But I was like, this is fine. I've read too much Dean and John, and that is nothing against you. Brain just went, we've read enough. We're done with this. No. And I couldn't, my brain just went, no more John. So, and then I said to myself, I'm going to finish that in the morning before the interview. And if you've listened, and I know you have, and everyone else listens, I don't do that. I'm notorious for not looking at documents until we're actively live and recording, so I didn't. Sorry. I will.
Props to you that you got, 23,000 words through it.
Yeah.
It's a long fic, and it's probably one of my only John fics that he's a semi-decent person who tries to make good decisions.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah.
Wow, I spent the latter half of that fic going, you bastard. I can't believe you've done this because you have had a fucking smidgen of self-control and let your son get bent over in an alley. No.
But yeah, I was quite surprised that Dean and John fic it's literally tripled all of my other reads on my account.
So what's the response you're getting from it?
I've gotten last checked it was 18,000 views in a year. And
that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I was like, is that a lot? And I kind of looked at other authors and stuff, and I was like, oh shit.
That's a fucking lot. My top hitted fic isn't even close. That's a lot.
I was quite surprised because, John isn't that accepted or liked in the fandom, but yeah, it's my most popular.
But
I don't really care about the reads because I'm more like, if I like the story and I'm proud of it, I don't care about other people.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And that you can tell that by my my fic Crackin Open a Cold One, the mystery spot necro fic that's barely even cracked 1,000 views.
It's open. It's open in my tabs. It's open. I'm gonna get that. But
once I finish it, I'm proud of that one. I think it's hilarious. And I don't really care about.
Is it finished and you're just waiting to upload it, or is it still
I still have a few. I have a few more. I think I have maybe 1 or 2 chapters to go. I just wanted to post it and get some kind of response to see how people responded to it. But literally in a month or two, it's gotten 474 views.
That's good. That's good. Those kind of there are. I said this to Dreamer when she posted something that was quite dark. Those kind of fics are a marathon, not a sprint. You can post some PWP that you put 2 days worth of effort in, and it goes fucking amazing. And you're like, what the fuck just happened here? But those kind of the darker themes, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You don't get the same kind of instant gratification that you can get with something more traditional. But if it's still being written, I will go read. I tend to wait. I don't like whips.
Yeah.
So, but I will, because I don't want to. I don't want to sit here and be like, necrophilia is my jam. But I have read too many original fiction books to be able to morally hold that. Which necrophilia book did I send you?
Oh,
fucking
maybe it was a
sentence.
Sorry, it was a necrophilia. I was mixing
No,
it up with another book.
No, I sent you Hog. I sent you Hog, didn't I? I fucking enjoy that. That was an endurance test. I can send you necrophilia books if you want. I have a fair few of them. What have you read? Is it Exquisite Corpse?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Everyone's read that one. I've got a few others. So I can't, morally, I can't take that stance anymore. I can't, in the same way I couldn't wear white to my own wedding, I can't morally say necrophilia is not my thing.
Oh, but that's why I wrote this story, because I was kind of like, I've already written tags that were pretty out there for some readers and stuff, but what is something that I'd never thought I would write myself, and can I make it funny and somewhat palatable for people that usually wouldn't try this type of story? So I tried to go to the most extreme tag, which is necrophilia, and make it funny.
And I have absolutely no doubt that it is fucking great. It was not a lack of interest in the fic that I haven't read it yet. It's because it's a whip. But if you're still working on it, I will pick it up. I feel the need to justify myself now. I am not into necrophilia as a kink whatsoever. Well, people are. That's the thing. People are. I think it makes for interesting story writing.
And just this justify idea myself that Sam had this kink and Dean is gung-ho about it and going, did you do it? After working out that he is dying repeatedly, he kind of glosses over that and goes, well, did you do it with me? Did you do it? And just not even caring that they're in this time loop, but realizing that Sam could get his ultimate kink and enjoy it without any consequences. And then also the trickster's response to it, going, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? I thought this was a prank on you guys, and you guys are just...
And now you're fucking...
Seems to be the theme in a lot.
Yeah. And the idea of every time Dean dies, there's a portion of time that Sam has to kind of cope with it. It's not an instant turnover. And so Sam gets to have his way with Dean for a little while, but every single time it gets shorter and shorter just because the trickster's over it until it's only, a couple of minutes, and suddenly Sam is in the middle of the street just tearing a teen in front of people, and people are screaming and running, and Sam knows that it's only a couple of minutes, but
oh, that's so good. Oh my god, that's so good. That's so fucking right. Okay, look, there is my justification. You couldn't get that kind of plot with anything other than this one specific subject matter. So,
right.
And I'm about to blow a hole all the way through what I just said by saying all the other necrophilia fics I've read, because there is more than one. In addition to the original fiction, they've all focused on all hell breaks loose, and Dean being with Sam after Sam dies. So I worry about what this says about me as a person. I can't fucking wait to dive into that now.
I literally was like, what's the most extreme, horrible thing that I can try and write that I've never written before? But also, I want to write it in a way that when people watch Mystery Spot, they can't help but remember my fic.
I'm not reading that because that's my favorite
Sandra likes
episode.
Mystery Spot.
I'm not reading that. No, I don't. That's the one thing too when it comes to fan fiction. Like sometimes it's like you read something and then you're like, wait, is it the show or is it the fanfic that I'm remembering? And sometimes I've just got to be like, you know what? I want to keep that in its nice little sweet place.
And you know what? By contrast, this might make Mystery Spot more palatable for me.
Exactly.
I fucking hate it.
I think you should read it. Yeah, I think it'll help.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, the episode is torturous for Sam, but if we like spin it a little, you know,
you're making it that he's getting something out of it too.
What if it just bends a little?
Yeah.
What if it just bends a little, guys? Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And instead of the trickster kind of going like, deal with it, Sam, you have to deal with Dean, dying because eventually he will. Trickster's going, what the fuck is wrong with you guys?
Who authorized this shit? What?
Like, I thought incestuous Winchesters was bad enough, but now I have to deal with necrophilia, incestuous Winchesters? Like, the fuck?
Oh, and you know what?
And
putting Richard Spade Jr.'s face on that makes it all the fucking sweeter. I love that.
And after the fact of in season 3 with Sam going, you know what would save you from your deal is if you just turn into a zombie and we can just, drive around and replace your organs. It's really not that far off. Like Sam is that unhinged.
He is. Yeah.
So we just bend it a little and suddenly he's actually getting off on it.
Yeah. And I mean, in the fucking collection of weird fucked up shit that's wrong with the Wincesters, that's not even the worst, really.
No.
Like I could conceivably in canon have one of them go, you know what? I just really like unresisting partners. Like I won't go full, I just like cold dead bodies. But I just really like in unresisting partners. Like I can see where Jeffrey Dahmer was coming from as a concept. Like that's not the weirdest thing they've said.
But I've always been quite fascinated with Jeffrey Dahmer's perception of it's more the fact that this person can't leave me.
Yes.
And Sam would relate so heavily to that in the fact that he doesn't like having to lie about getting one-night stands. He doesn't have to try to manipulate and coerce someone into having that relationship with him and then leaving the next day. And the idea of him having control over when they part and him not hurting them emotionally, like it was really quite simple to twist that into him having a necrophilia fetish, which I thought was so, like, I thought it would be really hard to kind of connect those dots, but it was actually really easy.
Yeah. No, I can totally see that. Yeah.
And I one of my proudest moments is to create something that offends people usually, but also make it funny.
Mm-hmm. So is it not really?
Sandra's there going, not even once.
Is it
never, ever?
So
ever.
Is it not really fanfic tropey that you gravitate towards, but more like more? It sounds like you like to push yourself into.
Yeah, when it comes to reading, I have always, there's nothing that has, like, I've never read a synopsis or a summary and gone, ooh, like, it's always been like, I want to read this to see if it pushes my boundary.
Mm-hmm.
And if I find a line that I finally can go, oh no, that's way too much, and I haven't found it yet.
You haven't found it yet. Okay.
Did you? I know that Hog is original fiction, not fan fiction. But was that not the line?
That's more. I mean,
Sandra, I would not ever and will not ever recommend Hog to you.
No,
that
don't.
Could not be further from you from your stuff.
I'm just glad that you know not to even like, you know.
Yeah, no.
You just
one of my I have like 3 tags or themes that I that put me off.
Mm-hmm.
And those are they're very different. Mpreg,
okay,
scat, and fluff.
Okay.
Sorry, what was that last one again?
Fluff.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a fucking.
So do you write?
I'm with you. I'm with you on the middle one because I like my fan fiction sanitized. Thank you very much.
But you do write some A/B/. You do write Omega verse.
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was actually inspired through my vet tech reproduction classes.
Okay.
Up until that point, I'd never written it or anything like that. And then we started learning about like cats in heat and all of this kind of thing. And I started thinking about Dean with cat-like reproductive
which is
traits.
honestly much more fucking interesting than the canine trope that ABO tends to be canine in nature. And I've read a fair chunk of that fic. I haven't read the whole finished thing yet because I'm behind it, sorry. But if you could get over the ABO squick, Sandra, I would really recommend it because it's a really interesting, what if it just burns a little, on the ABO trope of primarily canine animalistic features. And cats
don't get me wrong, Sam still has those, but it was kind of like Omegas could have different variations of what heats would make them do.
Is it even ABO if there isn't a knot though? Like I kind of feel like that's
a knot.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Even if you twist it and bend it and go, okay, well it's a feline thing or it's a it's I don't know. I've seen bunnies and shit.
Spikes.
Yeah, but it's I don't know. I don't know if you can still call it ABO if no one has a knot. I don't know.
Well, that's why alphas still have knots, but it was more the omegas of how they have heats.
Mm-hmm.
It was more whether they're enticing and whether they're teasing the omega the alphas into fighting for them and claiming dominance, or whether they resist and it's a painful heat. Which is very classic ABO, which is, curled over, sweating and in pain and all of that. Whereas I imagine the way a cat goes into heat, they're overrun by this need to mate, but then they're also really resistant to it at the same time. And that's why they fight and scream and all of that. So that's why I kind of blended them together. And I thought it would be quite funny for a human to display those types of feline reproductive traits. The idea of Dean swiping things off the table and singing these really obscene rock lyrics, which is the same as a cat wailing when they're in heat. It was just too much fun. And of course, older Sam, younger Dean, size difference. Like it was just too tempting not to do.
I gotta ask about the fluff. Is it because you can't see? No. But I'm like, does it have more to do with Sam and Dean too? Like not being able to see them?
Yes, that is a part of it. Like incest to me should not be romanticized.
Okay.
Like it to me, it's stemming from very unhealthy coping, relationships and codependencies, and like I can't see that as, unless it's like where they've grown up apart and they don't even know one another. That's the only situation where I can kind of be okay with it. But to be fair, I can't even watch romance movies.
That's what I was wondering too. Like if you do lean heavily towards like, if you like darker stuff, I mean, it's understandable.
Yeah. I can't do romance movies. I'm there going, no, I've never been one for that. But like, yeah, horror movies and dark romances and all of that, love. But yeah, I cannot. The idea of any incestuous pairing, kind of trying to date one another or romance one another, that to me, romancing your family member is grooming to me. And grooming is very inappropriate and psychologically damaging. So I can't put those two together, especially when there's any sort of age difference, whether it's 4 years or more. To me, there is this level of wrongness, and whether you're writing it as the person receiving that or doing that, you either are aware what you're like. Say I'm writing about Dean trying to romance Sam, whatever. He is the older brother, regardless, and there should be some sort of angst and you know shame about that. And that's the way I can't do romance and incest together. Whether that be my own, my own kind of experiences or whatever. It's just like, no, those two things can't
coincide,
line up together.
Yeah.
And that's fine, even if they're adults and they accept it. And considering how isolated and, messed up Sam and Dina are about one another, that's fine. Once they're, they can make that decision because obviously they were carted around and they were shipped off to different schools and they were never actually allowed to form outside relationships with anyone else but themselves, each other. That I just, it seems wrong to me. Or I get it just doesn't mesh well to me.
Yeah. Okay. No.
So the second I
totally
read, Sam and Dean having a romantic dinner or there's candles involved, I'm just like,
So does the MPreg tie into that? That's kind of is it like that's a like a violation thing, or is it more of that kind of, oh no, that's like a happy couple life?
It's the labor part.
All right, okay.
Okay.
I remember reading one about labor of MPreg where giving birth outside, like through the backside.
No, I hate that so fucking much.
So I have never been able to read, like I can read MPreg up to labor, but once labor is involved, I'm just like, no.
Okay.
And I think that's through my time through Supernatural Kink meme on LiveJournal, where just nothing was off limits.
Yeah.
And
fair.
so I read a lot of just unhinged stuff as a teenager.
See, I've got such a really good fucking fic with you that it's not even all right. I didn't find it. I found it through a smutty counterpart that was like, hey, this is like an unaired scene to this other fic. But it's like a teen thing, and it's Sam gets pregnant with a Nephilim baby, but they like rearrange all his business. So they don't like give him female parts, but they rearrange all his business so it isn't like out the back door. There's and I really want to send it to you now and be like, is this okay? But I respect your boundaries and that's fine. But
I have no boundaries, but as long as I'm more than happy, even if they don't have a birth canal, that it's just kind of glossed over or skipped over.
Or a cesarean.
Pregnant and then glossed over labor and then child is there. That's fine. I just don't want to read about
Oh no, it's an incredibly graphic labor scene. But if the crux of the issue is the whole where is the baby going to come out of? that is explained. Like junk gets moved around. Like it's that is explained. Yeah, no, that's.
As I said, I don't technically have anything that is offensive to me, or anything like that, except for romantic fluffiness stuff. Other that I'm like, no, thank you. But anything else, I'm happy to have a go at.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for my line.
Yeah. I was also doing that. Not so much with fan fiction, because I have like boundaries in fan fiction, but I was looking for that in original fiction, and oh boy, did I find it. Yep. Hog was my line. Hog was the one that made me go, I'm going to finish this out of sheer fucking spite. But like, nothing
I have
else.
No problem with water sports or anything like that. It's more scat, I think, and I think that's because I have to deal with enough animal shit.
That's fucking reasonable, though. That is reasonable.
And like physically having to clean that up. When an animal's in surgery, they shit so much, and like having to smell it and deal with it is enough, and then having to read about someone consuming it or anything like that in a kinky way, I'm just like, no.
Yeah, I think what I wanted to ask was like, because I know you mentioned like China Blue as somebody that you were reading, and I think like brought you maybe back in, or somebody you'd read a lot of. So some of your favorite fanfic authors, and then maybe like just if you had to pick like one or two of like your favorite works, what would they be?
Ooh, I didn't look into favorite works, but look, this one's it's a collaboration work, and it's an RPF, but it's pretty it crosses some boundaries that some people may have, but it's cool.
No, it's fine. Well, like, if it makes you feel better, we're going to put a big old disclaimer on this episode that is like,
probably should,
please be warned. So don't worry about saying anything. It's fine.
It's called the Fuck Pig Verse, and it is I
know that one. I haven't read it, but I know it.
What? It's so good.
Sandra's like, why are you like this? It's a band. It's a band.
It's band. It's an AU of a punk band, and the band is called Fuck Pig.
Which is a terrible name for a band, but an excellent name for a punk band.
Okay.
But
it's a punk
excellent.
Band. It's yeah. And Jensen is a fanboy. Teenage fanboy, but a fanboy of this band, and he goes on like he follows the band around, and he's obsessed with Jared, who is the bassist of this band. And he ends up connecting with Jared and ends up becoming a groupie for the band and stuff. And it's got no, just Jared.
No, just Jared.
Just Jared. He literally wants to be Jared's baby mama. But I've read some like one shots from that verse. I haven't read the whole thing. I haven't read the whole thing because there is quite a lot of drug use in it. I'm not about that life. Yeah. But I have. There is a lot, but it does encompass, band life very well, and also just they're all quite traumatized and very complex characters that they write really well, and it's a collaboration between Dolly Lux and Hellhound Spray and a group of other writers.
I hear
and
them
stuff like
all
that.
the time. Yeah, in terms of that, I've heard those names.
Dolly Lux is not. Yeah. Dolly Lux is not for you, babes.
No, I know, that's why. But I've heard that name, and I've heard Hellhound's Prey quite a lot as well.
Hellhound Spray is one of my favorite. So it's Hellhound's Prey is and they write quite a lot of ABO stuff as well. Actually, that was the writer that made me kind of try ABO, because a little while ago I was like, no, thank you. And then I read their fics and I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's not so bad. But I'm obsessed with the way Hellhound Spray writes their fics. It's almost poetry-like in a way. And I'm obsessed with it. I try to emulate them a bit as much as I can.
How much stuff have they written?
God, a lot.
So have they been around the fandom for a while?
Yeah, and they're still kind of active. But hell,
I feel like they were on the Wincest book club for some questions or something. I think I saw like some announcements or something about that. Maybe I'm
so. They've written 148 supernatural fics and 113 supernatural RPFs.
Wow. Okay.
And they just posted It's like at the start of July. So they're still around.
Mm-hmm.
Dreamer just sent me one of their fics. It's an old one from 2015, but I didn't even clock the title until afterwards, and I was like, fucking hell, that was great. And she was like, Hellhound's Prey, though. And I was like, that makes sense.
I just hear
They
you guys talk
also
about them
are
all
an
the time.
artist.
Okay.
They do art as well, and they're just great.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, I remember I was around for the live journal days, so Homework Verse, and I was a big fan of. There was a podficker called Juice 713 or something like that. I'll have to find the link. And they did a whole lot of because, as I said, me being dyslexic, reading something like the Homework Verse was freaking impossible. And I remember downloading that when I was probably 16, 17.
They did that.
Yeah,
okay.
they did.
Okay.
And they do a very good, they have a female voice, but they do a very good rendition of Jared and Jensen and Sam and Dean and all of that. They have a whole heap. But yeah, I remember listening to them all the way back. They were on my iPod back in the day.
Okay.
And yeah, so Hellhound Spray, Dolly Lux, China Blue, who is unfortunately not very active at the moment, and she does a lot that is very similar to me, where it's John and Dean, but it's very codependent and messed up and that kind of thing. So it's not, it's that same dynamic that I'm a big believer in. Another one is my good friend Purdy Glambert, and her username is xPurdyGlambertX.
Okay.
She does a lot of she does John and Dean, Sam and Dean, she does Benny and Dean, she does all sorts of things. Sam and Dean 76, they're a prolific writer. I think they did 1 million words in the last couple of years. Just insane. But yeah, I mean, I'm the type of reader that doesn't have a limit of what I'm going to read. So it takes a lot of repeated fics from one author for me to actually clock them, because I'm so willing to read anything.
Right.
So yeah.
We'll jump into my questions, because I don't know if y'all have picked up on this, but AJ is not from the Northern Hemisphere, and it is early in the morning for her.
Almost 2 a.m., but I was up to almost 4 a.m. last night.
Yeah, no, I see you. I know, because you're not too far off from Dreamer's time zone.
No,
I think you're like
half an hour or an hour or so.
I think you're what time did you say it is? 2
a.m.
2 a.m.
I'm in one of those weird half. Yeah, I'm in one of those weird half hour time zones.
Yeah, so I think you're just half an hour behind her. So yeah, but I see you in the Discord at what I would consider weird hours of the day for somebody that lives in the time zone that you live. And I keep meaning to call you on it and be like, AJ, go to bed. But then I'm like, no, she's just finished her studies. If she wants to stay up until 5 a.m., you fucking leave her alone. She's earned this time.
Yeah, 5 a.m. is not a weird time for me. It's terrible.
All right, Kasey's questions, which are no longer a surprise. So I will start with the one that actually is going to be a surprise, because I wrote this one in. So we talked about that I read your Dean John fic, and while we're not going to get started on that because we'd be here for another hour. Where did the gifts come from? What movie or TV show are those gifts from? I just need the name so I can go and investigate some shit for myself. Where'd
Which
they come
ones? From? The
John and
the John ones?
JDM in the bath. Wait, are them all gifts? No, JDM in the bathtub. And it's like a trio of 3 as he's like very clearly going to jerk off. And if he does, you fucking blue balls does with the last one. We don't get to see that one. We just get to see shirt yank up, hand.
You never see any privates, unfortunately, but the movie is called The Resident.
The Resident. Thank you.
Oh, boy. I watched that movie like it is a romance, and it is far from a romance.
That's all right. I can deal with that. Thank you. But it's a movie, not the fucking medical TV show.
No. It's a movie. I believe it's 2015.
Yeah, he looks pretty. No, 2011 actually. It's hard to tell. JDM's been daddy for so long that you can't really place him anymore.
That man has aged so fucking well. It's unfair. He's the only reason why I keep watching The Walking Dead on repeat. I'm not a fan of zombies. They give me nightmares. He's the only reason why I watch that show.
Yeah, but Negan is baby. I mean, baby's not the right word, but a little bit. Alrighty. Secret questions that are not questions anymore. So we'll do this with your AO3 username because, like Sandra, you have a fair few different usernames and screen names and things like that. But
I made a link tree.
You made a link tree. Look at that. Look at that. That's so fucking professional and prepared. But you don't have to tell us if you don't want to. It's fine. But where did your AO3 username come from?
It was actually before I made my Tumblr, and I wanted to post something. I went to my old live journal and I salvaged something, and I was like, I don't know what kind of writer I want to be, and I also don't want backlash, so I want to make it clear that these are just, creations from my imagination, and I kind of chucked in imagination creation, and it was free, and I went, yeah, cool.
That's awesome. What a great story. No, that's cool. That's cool. That has far more thought than any of my usernames that have gone into it, so I love it.
And it gave me the freedom to be, humorous or dark or what, and also try different, original works or different fandoms and stuff like that. So, yeah. That's
awesome. I love it. Alrighty. And secret question. That is not a secret question because you fucking listened. What is your favorite dinosaur? See, look, I didn't get my moment of silence then. Normally I get a moment of silence where people go, did you really just ask that? And I'm getting it because you knew it was coming. Fucking sad.
I spent a ridiculous amount trying to research this because even though I love nature and animals, I was never really a dinosaur person.
Oh, you spent time in research? That's so sweet.
I spent so long trying to, I Googled fascinating dinosaurs, unique dinosaurs, interesting dinosaurs, Australian dinosaurs, and it's not really all that interesting. Honestly.
That's okay.
And yeah, I can't. I guess I actually even look. I even listened to a podcast about dinosaurs.
Oh my gosh!
From a paleontologist who I was found a new podcast, and it was like we interview a paleontologist. I'm like, maybe this will give me my answer. And I'm just going to go with Velociraptor because apparently it was chicken sized but vicious as hell.
That's fair enough. I also would have accepted I don't have one as well. But that's perfectly
but I
fine.
wanted an answer.
Velociraptor. I love that. Little angry chickens. I love it.
Yeah. They were like a foot tall but vicious as hell. And I was like, yeah, that'll do. They're like prehistoric cats.
Yeah. No, I'm down for that. I'm down for that. It takes all the fun out of it when you have an answer.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to have to change my secret question now. I'll start slipping it in when people aren't expecting it.
You're interviewing your podfic fangirl. So, what can you expect?
That is true. Yeah.
That's very sweet. That's very sweet.
Maybe
I've been
you
thinking
will
of
be
this
the one.
answer since it came up.
Yeah, maybe after this interview, I'll actually go back and collate all the information I've collected because I never make a note of it, ever.
And that's not my job.
I'm going to make a table. I'm going to make a table, and I don't fucking never do. I never do.
Not my job.
Cool.
So I'm just curious, AJ, out of the 6 pages of notes, how many notes do we actually get to in this interview? Because I feel like we're going to have you back.
Yeah, I've got to say, we had, how many pages of notes did we have? We had 1 full page, and we didn't get to everything on our 1 page. So
I would love to come back. I didn't even read word for word what I had. It wasn't even dot points. It was I wrote myself a script. It was absolutely ridiculous. We didn't get to favorite characters.
Right. We'll probably have to get back to that. I know
Kasey will not like my answer, one of my answers.
Well, now you have to tell me. Quickly. Come on, we can wrangle this together. Get
Becky,
out.
No,
You're not coming back. Get out. Get out. You're not coming back. That's it. Invitation rescinded. Get out. No, you are coming back because I'm going to make you explain that one.
Can I quickly explain? Emily Perkins, who was in She's the Man as Eunice, we used to quote her in high school. And that was before Supernatural, like she was in Supernatural. So we were obsessed with She's the Man and Eunice. And then I'm watching the brand new episodes of Supernatural and suddenly Becky Emily Perkins as Becky pops up and she's writing Wincest. Like that, I have never laughed so hard in my life. Oh, and I know she became problematic for sure. But at the time she first cropped up, oh God, she was so good.
You might get a pass on that because it's more about the actor than the character.
Oh, Emily Perkins, she played the perfect like fangirl type thing. You know what I mean? No one could have done that better.
Right. Give you half a pass. You are not completely banned. You will come back and explain this further.
I like problematic characters, all right? You need to accept this from me.
You need to come back because you're getting real fucking sassy and I don't have time to combat this right now. Because if I start combating this, Sandra's just going to nope out of the Zoom call and be like, I'm fucking done with you guys.
Well, I've got about 4 hours to get through in terms of editing. So, I mean, that's
but like at least
I'm thinking about.
At least 2 of that is just going to be gone.
But
at least 2 of that is going to be gone.
I still have to listen to
it. I know, babes. I know.
And I do it a little bit faster now. Like I have to put you guys on like chipmunk speed sometimes, like when I get to these situations. But yeah, we'll have to have you back.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
So how I usually try to end these is like I kind of ask just if you have anything you'd like to tell fellow writers, like they might be in a spot where they're having difficulty writing, maybe they thinking about writing fan fiction, maybe they haven't gotten into it, maybe they've dealt with maybe like you, they left it behind, maybe are coming back to it. Is there anything you'd want to leave some of our writers with in terms of a little bit of like wisdom that you could pass along to them?
Unleash your imagination.
That's
Do not feel
good.
too self-conscious about how out there or unhinged or deranged or dark or hilarious your fics might be. There will be someone out there that enjoys them and who will cheer you on. And if you're stuck with writing, write badly and you can come back and correct it.
We've gotten that a lot in one way or another from a lot of our
fill in
our
the gaps. Fill in the gaps. Leave little dot points of what you think the next scene should be, and just keep going with what your brain is wanting you to write. And you can always come back to those spaces. But trust me, when I banned myself from writing fan fiction over the last few months in order to finish my studies, I have now lost that skill. I've now hit such a bad writer's block that I'm struggling. Like I've written a couple of fics that's just to try and push me through, but I've lost the momentum from my whips, and I have like 15 whips at the moment. And it's so disappointing because I keep trying to start something new to kind of kickstart that creativity again, but I'm really struggling. So just keep writing, keep practicing. Don't tell yourself that you don't know what to do, because you do. Just create some dot points and keep going. Keep the ball going.
Do you feel like you need to write every day to keep that momentum going?
I mean, not every day. Make sure you're having fun with it.
Yeah.
And don't make it out to be a chore or anything. As soon as it feels like you're forcing it or something, just give yourself a break.
Right.
Look into a different theme or a different, trope or something. And try something different. Always try something different. As I said, unleash your imagination. Never be afraid of what your brain can come up with. Always push the boundaries and see what perspective or dynamic or situation that you can create. Nothing is off limits.
That's great.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
AG, this has been quite interesting. I've got to listen to a lot of stuff.
I'm so sorry.
No, in a good way, just because I really do like hearing all of the different perspectives, from writers and everything, and listeners and watchers and everything like that. So I do appreciate that you came on, that you like listening to us, chit chat about random weird shit, and just listen to us, go off on stuff and have things to say and add to it. I think it's very,
it's a highlight of my day.
And you and Kasey are so very similar.
Yeah, I'm going to have to apologize profusely. I'm firing up the "I'm so sorry" image right now, Sandra.
But but I think it's I think it's funny too, because like I hear both of you like apologizing like a lot for like what you like, and it's like, but you like what you like, so don't apologize for it. Like that's what makes everybody individually unique, and that's great. So I definitely appreciate the conversation quite a bit, and got to just listen to both of you. Okay, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to say ciao for today, but I'm pretty sure we're going to try to have you back. Maybe we'll try to.
Are you sure you think that's a good idea?
Maybe we'll try to go all out, balls to the wall, and have Dreamer come on for a discussion, and I will just sit back and let the three of you go to town, and it will be fine. It will be absolutely fine.
You're going to be.
I think so.
Two Aussies versus a Brit.
I'm just going to let you guys go. I don't know. It won't be verses. Won't be verses.
Convict your
Finally, the
ancestors.
Aussies outnumber you guys, or equal to.
I will just raise my hands and be like, I'm out. I'm out of the conversation. Oh goodness. No. No, but this was very good. I'm glad you came on. I'm glad you had your notes. And are you pleased with yourself that you did the thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Good.
I thought I was going to sound like a robot or something, because my auntie was like, let me hear your answers. And I was reading one of my answers, and she's like, you sound like you're reading off a script.
I'm starting to question this fucking auntie, Like, I'm not going to cast aspersions, but like, that's
I didn't know what I was going to say, though. So I gave her my prepared answers, and she's like, please sound more natural, like, relax. Take it easy. You're fine. You're talking about your favorite subject. You'll be fine.
Is she going to listen? Is she going to listen?
Probably.
Your episode.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hi,
That's
AJ's
awesome.
auntie.
Hi, AJ's auntie. Absolutely.
Who compared the supernatural playthings to gay porn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's not wrong. She's not wrong.
No.
Yep, she's not wrong. But no, don't worry. You sounded perfect. You sound perfectly natural.
fine.
And I had a fucking blast.
Yes.
I'm glad.
Yes.
A blast.
Yes. I could tell Kasey was really enjoying this.
But Sandra is going to throttle me if we don't wrap this up. So, Sandra, you want to do your bit? She'll boot you out if you need her to, but she won't report you.
Yeah, but I figure you're probably okay exiting out, AJ, whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Alrighty, well, we will.
Thank you, AJ.
I will be around on Discord for a little while if you're still around.
Yeah, probably. I'm going to take my sleeping meds and I'll be around for an hour.
Yeah, we will hit Dreamer up and we will make something happen.
Oh, God.
I have no filter. It's fine.
Oh,
I find that it allows more people to relate to quirky people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, we are all quirky. We are all quirky.
I know. That's why I love the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We do appreciate it. I love that you've been a listener for a while. So we do love the support. Thank you so much.
No worries, guys.
All right. Fun. Have a good morning. I guess. Question mark.
Kasey, we still have another episode to record.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying goodbye. Bloody hell.
What time is it for you guys?
It's 1 for me. It's 6 p.m. for Kasey. So, yeah.
Oh,
so we're good.
It's not too bad for us. It's not too bad.
You guys have, like, lives. So.
Well, everybody does.
Stretchy feet.
Everybody does. But no, I'm good. Yes, please. We'll talk to you soon. In
the nicest way possible. See you later. Bye.
So, I mean, overall, that was quite a conversation.
It's great, though.
That was a lot to go through. So
I'm so sorry. I've sent you the image in Discord and everything.
I think it's my I think this is when my introvert stuff like starts to like, and not in a bad way, but it's just like the energy.
It's a little too much.
Yeah. The energy level kind of like just gets sucked out of me. Like when we go on like for a really long time, and not that it's bad, but that I don't want to like disrupt you because I know you both you guys are enjoying it. You're going off on each other. You're feeding. It's conversation. So it's good. It's good. I was listening. I was learning a lot. And yes, I mean, I'm teasing AJ, but we did have a really, really nice time with her, and hopefully she'll get to come back and talk to us some more about
we'll make some things happen.
Convention, all those other things that we talked about. So
yeah. It was a really, really optimistic list that we had.
Yeah.
Because we could have done a whole episode just on comparing convention stories because we've all been to one. Mm-hmm. We could have done a whole episode on the original pilot versus the actual aired pilot script.
Yeah. Yeah.
But okay. we were optimistic, y'all, but it's all right. It's all right.
Like I said, we don't know until we chat with somebody.
Yeah. I need to open up a tab that's been not open for so long it loaded itself again.
Okay. So we do want to thank AJ, and we hope she gets to come back and chat with us again. But we are going to wrap up this episode, and we want to thank you for listening and let us know what you thought of the episode. You can email us at idlingintheimpala@gmail.com, comment on Spotify in the Q&A section, leave a YouTube comment, join our Discord and chat with fellow idlers and us in real time. Check out our merch store, which is another fun way to show your support. You can find details for everything on our website, idlingintheimpala.com. Want to fuel our supernatural road trip? Consider joining us on Ko-fi for as little as $1 a month. We have perks to go along with different membership tiers and would love to have you along for the ride.
Don't forget, you can always support us for free by liking, commenting, subscribing on YouTube, and following, rating, sharing on audio platforms. Engagement really helps us with the algorithms. All hail their benevolence. As always, we have the causes that we support in the description. So you have LGBTQ plus talking charities from me and mental health charities from Sandra. But as always, again, I say as always too much. I need to change that. Mm-hmm. As always, we have the causes that we support in the description. So from me, you have LGBTQ plus talking charities. From Sandra, you have mental health charities. And the main charities that we are still championing, highlighting, spotlighting are World Central Kitchen and Doctors Without Borders. Both of these charities are on the ground working in the Ukraine to help those still affected by Russia's unlawful invasion of the Ukraine, and in Gaza, which is in the crossfire of the war between Israel and Hamas. This is not political. It does not matter which side of these issues you stand on. We are coming from a purely humanitarian view here. There are people in the Ukraine and Gaza that are trapped, cut off from basic human rights like food, water, and shelter, and they're dying. They didn't ask for war, and we want to help the people risking their lives to help them. If you cannot or do not want to donate financially, that is absolutely fine. Just sharing the links around social media helps massively to keep these issues in the public eye and get people in need all the help that we can. So with that, we will say thank you for joining us in the backseat. Thank you to AJ for joining us in the backseat, and we will see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.